Now it's time to welcome in a special panel this week as we focus on our southern border. I'm happy to be joined in studio this week by Sofia Genovese. She's a managing attorney at the New Mexico Immigrant Law Center. Roberto Rosales is here, a longtime photojournalist who just returned from the border and whose images you see around our set tonight. And it's great to have journalist Algernon Damasa back with us, now editor at the Deming Headlight. Thank you all for being here and making the trip up here. Last week, the Biden administration lifted Title 42, a pandemic-era policy enacted by the Trump administration in 2020. It allowed the U.S. to deny entry to nearly all migrants seeking asylum in this country. Now, shutting down the border in what the administration called a public health measure in April of 2022, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said there was no public health basis to continue Title 42, but it remained in place until last week, following a stay from the U.S. Supreme Court, of course, that you read about. Now, the policy ended last Thursday as the declared national COVID-19 public health emergency expired. And Roberto, you've documented immigration and the border for years and years. You've traveled there. You just got back over the weekend. What did you see down there? Was there a rush of migrants like many had forecasted? What was your
It wasn't
experience?
as a rush, if you can say that.
Okay.
A lot of them were already in place, waiting for the gates to open and be processed.
Right.
However, there were some immigrants who were just getting to the Ciudad Juarez and trying to come across the Rio Grande and get in line. But little by little, they started understanding that, you know, this is going to be a long process, and some folks got there too late. At midnight, when that border closed,
Right.
they were stuck in limbo.
Wow.
And no idea what to do.
Interesting. Give us a sense of what you saw. Families, single men,
Families,
moms?
very few single men,
Okay.
mostly families,
Okay.
mothers with their kids. A lot of them from Venezuela, mostly from Venezuela.
Interesting.
Nicaragua, Honduras, and yeah, Venezuela seems to be the main country that was represented here.
Right.
And you can distinguish them by different accents.
I bet you
It
can
was
with your eye at this point.
super interesting.
Yeah.
But they all had one common thread, which was the struggle to get here and leave a volatile situation back in their home.
Right. Right.
Very sad and yet powerful in
Yeah.
a way, that determination to come here.
Interesting. Sophia, let's talk about that migration. Some of the stories you hear about the travel. Venezuela is not exactly around the corner. Building empathy for folks who are trying to build a new life. How important is that in our discussion about immigration here in New Mexico?
I think so often in these larger conversations, we forget that there are individuals who are seeking safety for themselves, for their families. And we encounter folks from all over the world in our work at NMILC, a lot of folks from Venezuela recently, but increasingly Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, a lot of indigenous folks. But people increasingly are fleeing totalitarian regimes, they're fleeing hunger, impacts of climate change for a number of reasons. And it's important to note that they're leaving because they're being pushed out of their countries. They're not leaving for any other pull factors like US-based policy. In our work, we encounter people who've not only suffered violence in their home countries, but all along the way to the United States, through the Darien Gap, up and through Mexico. Nearly every single one of my clients has been kidnapped, robbed, sexually assaulted, physically assaulted, and they consider themselves lucky because they made it to the border and they were able to cross, and not everyone does. And so it's a huge risk that people take when making that journey. They don't make that decision lightly.
Algernon, as you know, closing leading up, very noisy, a lot of press out there, a lot of warnings, as I mentioned to Roberto, about this surge of migrants. But the AP has reported a pretty significant drop in crossings, as Roberto mentioned. What happened here in your mind? What was the big fall off here? Because you would think even after the closing of it, there still would be a little bit of a push for the border. What happened?
Right, and there's still pressure on the border. It's just
Right.
that more of that pressure is coming to bear on the other side of the border in these border towns in Mexico. I live near Columbus, which has a port of entry to Puerto Palomas, which is a pretty small community where dozens of people are waiting for an opportunity to ask for asylum. They're working with NGOs on both sides of the border. And what some of them are telling me is that these folks are quietly being targeted. They're being targeted for shakedowns from local criminals. They are being targeted for prostitution. And the Columbus Port of Entry will only process 5 individuals per day.
Wow.
That's what they said that they would handle,
Wow.
and then immediately transport them to El Paso.
Right.
And so it seems as though the scenes at the ports of entry at the, in southern New Mexico are very quiet. But I think that by design, the policy has pushed the visible signs of that suffering away from public view.
I see. What does that mean for us as press? What do we need to do here to get this awareness out there a bit more? Are we doing enough at this point?
I think we need to be on both sides of the border.
Right.
I think we need to be speaking to people in multiple languages. And I really think that we need to go to show our communities that for whom we're reporting the human face of this.
Right.
I think that one lesson to draw from what happened in 2019 and the way that that community response was becoming celebrated, it was also bringing the migrants into the public eye so that we could see that these are moms, these are children. And when suddenly the situation changed and the communities didn't have those stories and those images to report anymore because the suffering was moved to the Remain in Mexico policy in Title 42.
Right.
I think it took that away from the public eye so that other rhetoric started to dominate the conversation.
Thank you for saying that. There's been a bit of rhetoric poisoning in the discourse on this. It's easy to demagogue this, isn't it? And make people feel like they're less than human, is what we're trying to get at here. And I'll go back to you, Roberto, on this as well. Have you had a chance to talk to people while you're there? Many? Okay.
Yes.
I'm interested in, it's hard to put one's place in another person's place, but I'm interested in the fear factor that you deal with, that you hear from these moms and such.
A lot of them, I'll pick folks from Honduras, the gang violence, the lack of opportunities for their kids to just go to school, just to live a normal life.
Right.
Not even to just get ahead, but just to be normal.
Yep.
It's not an option. And of course, we know what's happening in Venezuela. That climate is just awful right now, and people are just having to cross the Darien Gap and experience this awful, situations, sexual abuse, being robbed, you name it, they've gone through it. But they're not just coming here because they want to work and they want to leave their home,
Right.
which is, it goes against what a lot of people here in the U.S. think. They just want to come here and work. Yes, but they're not leaving because they want to. If they had a choice, I'm sure they would remain in their homes. But that is the common message that I'm hearing everywhere.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Sophia, back up a little bit. What impact did the end of Title 42 have on people you represent and advocate for? From your perspective, what was it rooted in? How did it help?
Yeah, so to give a little more context for Title 42, it was implemented in March 2020 by the Trump administration, and they used the COVID-19 pandemic as a pretext to enact this new asylum ban at the border. So what was happening over the past 3 years is asylum seekers and migrants, when they attempted to enter the United States, they were immediately expelled. They were either expelled to Mexico or in some instances expelled to their countries of origin. And there were 3 million expulsions over the past 3 years. And that 3 million encompasses sometimes the same adult trying to cross several times, and that number captures them multiple times. And so in our work in New Mexico, when someone reaches us in Albuquerque or throughout the state, we encounter folks who've been expelled multiple times under Title 42, but finally were able to access the asylum system and are now proceeding in that system. And so it had a huge impact on folks trying to seek safety. They were pushed back into Mexico, subjected to violence that migrants are subjected to there. So it had quite an impact on access.
I could imagine. Algernon, for immigrants and migrants living here in New Mexico already, is there any bounce from this, so to speak? Anything that we should be aware of for folks that are already here?
Well, just that there are still NGOs and people in communities helping people with needs assessments, making travel arrangements if needed.
Right.
What strikes me is that historically, there was a time when we actually had a family case management system to work with people while their cases were in process.
Right.
We did not have the system of detention centers that we see.
That's right.
We had a system where somebody called you up and spoke Spanish or whatever your language was and said, do you have everything you need? Here's your court date. Are you going to make your court date? And the data that I saw was that that was much less expensive than what we do now.
I see.
It was also phenomenally successful. And some of the companies, the contractors that were involved in this system of family case management approach were the same contractors that now are known for running these detention facilities for migrants. CoreCivic, I think, was one of them. And we just moved away from that to something that is a lot more expensive / lucrative. But in the meantime, we do have local border communities serving that gap. Churches and nonprofits that are still doing that work and helping families, some places even the individuals and the unaccompanied
You anticipated
minors.
a question. Thank you for mentioning that. I want to bounce that to Sophia real quick. Border towns and how Algernon mentioned Columbus, where he's at. What's been the situation for border towns here? Is it getting better? Is it safer for migrants and immigrants in New Mexico now? What's going on?
That's a great question. And I think often the question is flipped. Are migrants causing public safety concerns in these border towns? And the answer is absolutely not. By and large, border cities have been welcoming cities. The cities have been cross-national, for example, because communities are split across the border. And so there's a welcoming sense amongst ordinary folks who live in these border towns. But what's winning the narrative are often from white nationalists who are not in these border towns.
Right.
And to the earlier point about case management systems, yes, it's 100%, not 100%, but it's much cheaper to welcome people with dignity and holistically provide for their needs through case management, social services, legal access. And it's way more expensive to engage in these carceral policies, enforcement policies along the border. And all that does is push people further into the shadows and causes more chaos.
I could imagine that. Thanks to our line panelists right there. We'll be back in about 15 minutes to talk about the shifting national landscape for immigration.